Your healthy relationship with money begins right here. The Prosperity Show with Joan Sotkin.
Hi everyone, Joan Sotkin here, and thanks for tuning into the Prosperity Show, where we provide a holistic approach to building your business or professional practice. And because who you are and how you live your life forms the foundation of your business, we often focus on your physical, emotional, and spiritual health so you can build a strong base for your success. And along with a personal focus, the Prosperity Show also provides information about real-world business and financial skills that will ensure your financial success. My main site is prosperityplace.com, where you can download free audios and ebooks designed to help you build your money muscles and live a happier, healthier, more prosperous life. And what I want to talk about today is asking for money, which is a skill that entrepreneurs absolutely have to have. If you can't ask for money, or when you ask for it, you do it very tentatively, you're not going to build a strong business. You have to be able to say numbers with confidence and assurance. When someone asks you what your product or service costs, if you're going, well, it's sort of a sliding scale, and if it comes out like that, you're not going to make a sale. You have to be very definite about what you're doing. When people ask me how much my coaching costs, I'll give a number, and then I just keep quiet and wait for their response. Or I'll keep quiet, and if there's no response, after a time, I'll say, how does that sound to you? You have to really be clear about what you're charging and be confident that it's a good price. If you're, for example, one of my people on my Freedom from Financial Struggle program recently came on the program, and he was so undercharging, and he was doing a sliding scale, and the prices were pretty low to begin with, and he wondered why he wasn't making any money. So I said to him, you've got to raise your prices, and you've got to be clear about what you're charging. Within 2 weeks, everything's turned around for him. Because first of all, he wasn't crazy about the people he was drawing in who wanted the low end of his sliding scale. And I have found this with my audience, which is often having trouble financially, and I won't even give them a price for the coaching because I know they can't afford it. I only want to work as a coach with people who are willing to invest in themselves. So what I've done is to create lower cost programs that people can get into. But I'm not going to discount my coaching because someone really needs it and they can't afford it. I really believe that once you decide to make the money that you need to get what you want, you can do it if you deal with all the things we've talked about on this show. But the asking for money piece is really important. I got into a disagreement with someone recently because she had quoted me a price on something, and I didn't know that she had changed her mind. So when I went to engage her for this service, suddenly the price was very much higher. It was like the guy in the pharmaceutical company who raised the price of a pill by thousands of percentages. And she was going ahead with the process without telling me that she had raised her prices significantly, and I wasn't going to pay the new price. It just wasn't what I wanted for that price. You don't always have to say, I can't afford it. That's not always the reason why you turn something down when someone gives you a price. Very often you just don't think it's worth it, or it's not worth it to you at that point in time. If I hire someone as a coach, which I sometimes do, and they quote me a price that's way out of line, for me, it may not be at a line for them. For example, there are coaches who charge $10,000 a month. I'm not willing to pay that, but I want to know right away what it is and what they expect to accomplish for me within that price. And they have to be able to confidently say $10,000. Now, I had a client who signed up for a mastermind that was $10,000 a month. And he really couldn't afford it. He was going to put himself in serious debt for that. And the thing that was driving him towards that was his need to connect. And once he understood that, then he didn't have to go into that program. But you as the entrepreneur, when you're asking for whatever you think your product is worth, I think you have to be open to people feeling that it doesn't fit in for them and not judge them for it and not judge yourself as doing something wrong because they can't afford what you're doing. So the big deal is being able to ask for money in the first place. When I had my crystal business, now crystals don't come out of the ground with price tags on them. And there are some that are quite unusual. And I'd have to find a price that I thought acknowledged the uniqueness of a particular item. And I didn't, at that point, have to take into account what the customer could afford because I had so many things at different prices. And there were a couple of things that I had that were in the $5,000 to $10,000 range. And I had to be clear that this is what I felt it was worth without discounting it. I had to keep in mind what I had paid for it and not care for this particular item how long it took for me to sell it. Now, there were times when I would ask for a price knowing that I was willing to discount it because sometimes people want a discount. So I might say it's $2,000, but since you're getting other things at the same time, I can bring that down to $1,700, something like that. It's part of the sales process. So actually asking for money is really tied in with your sales skills and your ability to sense the right time when to give a price. If someone calls me up and says, how much is your coaching? Very often people will send me an email that says, how much is your coaching? Well, I'm not going to give a price at that point because if they're just searching for a price, that's not how I'm interested in presenting my stuff. So I'll suggest we have a conversation. And I want to find out who they are and what they're looking for, and if I can actually provide a service to them. And if we agree that I can, then we can talk price. And I'm willing to spend whatever time it takes getting to that point rather than saying, okay, this is what I charge. Because how can you evaluate my charge if you don't know what results you can expect? So asking for money is part of the sales process. Now, there was a time when I was selling great books of the Western world door to door. That's when I learned how to sell. It was a cold call. I'd knock on someone's door. I knew that they had bought Britannica, Encyclopedia Britannica before. This was in the long time before the internet where people actually had sets of encyclopedias in their house. There was no Google to talk to. And I'd knock on the door and say, hi, I'm from the Great Ideas Program. Can I come in? And I'd show them this set of books, which many years ago cost $520. which in today's money would probably be around $2,000. And sometimes I went into a house where there were no books in the house. And I honestly believed that having these books in the house for their children was going to make a difference for the children. So I believed in the product. And we were given a sales presentation with graphics and everything, so we could show what it was, and we had a book that showed how everything was indexed. So there was a wonderful presentation. And we never talked about the price until the end. And before we gave a price, we qualified the prospect with something like, if money were no object, is this something you'd want to have in your home? And if the answer is no, then you don't even give a price. So, as I said, asking for money is part of a sales process. And you have to make sure that whoever you're talking to is ready to hear a price and has gotten enough information from you about what you're offering. Now, very often a person will, after you give a price, will kind of hesitate. Well, now's the time for you to find out what might be keeping them from saying yes. So you have to find out what their objections are. And you have to not be afraid of asking them questions and getting to the point where, again, you qualify them and say, is this something you'd really like to have? You might ask a question like, how can you see that you might benefit from this? So money is a funny thing, as you know, and you can't guess what the value is to your client or what they're willing to pay unless you have a series of questions to ask. But the bottom line, which I said in the beginning, is when you ask for money, you have to be really clear about what you're asking for. And there may be times, I didn't say this before, when you actually want to have it written down in a contract. So people are very clear about what they're paying for and what they're getting in return. And if you have trouble asking for money, or if you know you're undervaluing yourself, then you have to deal with the emotions and the emotional issues and the sense of not enough and the low self-image and all that stuff that's keeping you from standing there and saying strongly, my price is, and then saying it. Although you don't usually say my price is, you just give a number. And once you give a number, you can either keep quiet or ask a question like, how does that sound to you? And if you're afraid to ask for money, and so many people are, you really need to ask yourself, what am I really afraid of? Are you afraid of their saying no? Well, a certain number of people are going to say no. That's part of it. So you're just trying to find out whether the person you're talking to is a yes or a no. And the idea is to become detached enough so it doesn't matter, because you know that after a while, if you get a series of no's, that you're getting closer to a yes. It's a numbers game. It's a numbers game, and that's why you sort of have to be comfortable with numbers if you're going to be dealing with money. And you have to be detached from the results. Whatever is happening is fine. Now, if you find yourself having a long series of no's, then something's wrong, not necessarily with your price, but with your sales process. And that's a whole nother topic. I think it's really important to spend some time, no matter what your business or professional practice looks like, learning how to sell, how to ask questions, how to qualify, how to prospect. There are all these techniques that have been scientifically studied and are available for you to learn. And if you think you're in business and you don't have to sell, you're wrong, because at some point you have to close the sale and say, would you like that delivered today or tomorrow? Would you like to start the coaching, or when would you like to start the coaching? So asking for money is really part of a sales process. But if you're afraid to ask for money, or if you're undervaluing yourself because you're afraid that people won't like what you have for that price, that is not a financial issue. That's an emotional issue. And that's basically the point I want to make today. And I'd love to hear from you. Do you have trouble asking for money? And how do you deal with it? What is the issue that you think you have that keeps you from asking for money? So this is a quickie today. That's it for today. I want to thank you for being here. Of course, if you're listening on iTunes or Stitcher, I would appreciate a rating or a review on iTunes. And I really appreciate your being here. And that's it for today. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye now.